Welcome back to Aces High Gamers. Last week at Gamescom, we got a brand new trailer for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. A couple of things to highlight from the trailer. You can see April O'Neil is added as a brand new playable character. I'm actually quite surprised that she's added to the game this early. I was not expecting any new playable characters until the eventuality of and hopefully DLC for the game. So the fact that she's going to be playable right from the beginning is a great thing. Team attacks were also added in, which is a really great and fun idea, and also the ability to revive a downed ally with pizza, no less. Not sure if I've seen anything like that in different in beat 'em ups before. You just run through your lives and that's it. Now, there's quite a bit in the trailer to actually break down. So what I'm actually going to be doing is breaking this into two separate videos. The first video is going to be a more generalized breakdown that's going over the trailer as a whole, and the second video is going to be a special video that's going to highlight April O'Neil herself. Now, there's quite a bit to go through, so let's jump right into it. Starting things off here, we can see a familiar scene from previous trailers with the busted up turtle tenderizer in the background. The scene is relatively unchanged except for a missing breakable trash can up to the top right. Now, I'm not going to be spending too much time focusing on April here because she's getting her own dedicated breakdown. But you can see here at the end of her three-hit combo, she gives off a little bit of a flash of light, kind of like an aura. Now, this yellowish green color may mean something, but I'm actually going to circle back to this a few times a little bit later. Now, I also believe that they went this color because bright yellow might be a little bit too hard on the eyes, and you actually may lose her sprite within the flash of light, considering the majority of her jumpsuit is yellow. Now, the last thing I want to point out here is the change to the join in progress button up to the top. Now, what used to have a white background now has a black one, and also has the same three lines that I mentioned in a previous video that could hint at a possible Xbox or PlayStation release. Now, does this mean this is the actual PlayStation or Xbox version, or did they just decide a black background seems to be better? Considering no other consoles have been confirmed yet, I'm actually going to go with the latter. Plus, later on in the trailer, the same button, also with the Nintendo Switch Plus sign, now has a black background. I guess we're just going to have to wait a little bit longer and hopefully get confirmation of additional consoles. Here in this next part is where we originally got a small highlight of Raphael. The only change to the scene is the pizza box being closed instead of open. We also get a look at April's version of her slide attack. Also note that in her combo she gives off that flash of aura again, but this time it's on the first hit. Let's circle back again later. Next up, we're outside the Channel 6 news station again. In the Indie World trailer, we get the turtles running away from this area. This time around, we're treated with some combat out front with April. Now, we got some changes to the stage here, starting with some additional details that was added to the bricks of the building. Traffic lights been added to the foreground. The doors to the station are now missing. It looks like you could possibly walk through them. Are you throwing some secrets here, Tribute? Can we walk through? Maybe a secret stage or something like that. Also, the welcome mat on the ground seems to be a little bit larger, a little minor detail there. Also, the party wagon seems to have a few added details. It looks like the pixel count might be increased a little bit. I'm not 100% sure on that one. Also, the windows and the windshield have a little bit of a glare, a little bit of a shine to them. Now, we got to look at April doing a rising multi-kick combo. Again, we'll touch on that in her breakdown in a separate video. And then on the way down, she does what looks like her version of the jump kick, which all the turtles happen to have in all of the games. But the interesting part is the fact that she gets that flashing aura once again when she connects with the kick. Again, let's circle back when we get a little bit later. Next up looks to be a subway stage, as well as the debut of the Mouser robots. Once again, they're jumping up to bite your hand, and your character gives off a nice goofy little look as you try to shake yourself free. Here we seem to be in a zoo of some kind, possible reptile exhibit here in the background. We see April doing a Ranboo or a multi-hit combo. Something like this usually doesn't need additional inputs once it's triggered. And we also get a look at her taunt at the end. Now, take note above at her ninja power meter, it seems to be already almost full while she's in the middle of this combo, and it's actually increasing as each hit lands. Now, it's hard to pinpoint how and when this meter gets used and how this Ranboo combo gets triggered. Now, at least with the former, we've got an answer a little bit later. We can also see a little bit additional detail in the foot soldiers as they get defeated. Now, originally in the very first trailer, they just happened to disappear. Then a little bit later in the next trailer, they started to explode. Now, as they explode, little bits and pieces and bolts are flying all around. It's a nice little touch right there. I love this level of detail that's being added to this game. Next up, just after this, we see Leo giving April a high five, which leads me to believe that team taunts have also been added to the game. Now, next here, we have a very short clip of April running with Raph in the subway stage. My guess as to why this is to show April's run speed comparison, knowing that Mike is the fastest, Donnie is the slowest, with Leo and Raph sitting right there in the middle. Safe to assume that April's run speed is of average as well. Back in the Channel 6 news station, we can see a few minor details added to this particular part of the stage. The chair now actually has a rip in it. There's a table with plants and pictures, etc. here added to the foreground, and the foot logo has been painted on the ground as well. Not much to discuss other than a subtle change to Leo's attack animation. The effect that his katanas make when being swung now has a blue hue to it, when prior they were only white. Back to the streets outside of Channel 6, we've got both Mikey and April swinging around in circles, just the same as Donnie and Raph did in a previous trailer, so it seems like anybody can do this move. Also looking above at each of their ninja power meters, they're almost full while doing this move and filling up with each hit, so it's safe to say that almost any hit, no matter what it is going to make this meter fill up. Now, with regards to added detail, there's a little bit of a dust effect that's been added to the swinging of the animation. For the stage itself, there's been quite a bit added, so I actually had to take a freeze frame from the Indie World video as the turtles just happened to run past this spot here. What I was able to catch there at the bottom, there's a possible subway entrance. A green and red canopy has been added to the windows of the pizzeria. Foot boxes seem to have replaced the trash can and the mailbox. There's a lamppost and street signs here that are now added in. Also, the Channel 6 news van in the background has a little bit more detail to the windows, and even orange cones were added next to it. It's a little bit hard to see them throughout all this chaos here, but they're there. Next up, we're introduced to the debut of the Rat King here in Shredder's Revenge. Real quick, Raph's attack animation seems to have also changed. You can see a little bit of a reddish hue to his attacks as well, as opposed to them being white. Now, after taking a couple of hits, Rat King jumps on top of the busted foot ski and starts playing his flute, and out come a wave of raps. One of them even happens to get a hold of Raph here, just the same as the Mousers do. Now, while I don't expect a ton from boss fights in this game to the likes of an MMO, it does seem like there is a possibility of phases to each encounter, or I could just be wrong and this is just one of Rat King's attacks. Now, also notice when he takes hits, he flashes the classic reddish color from games of old. Now, while I'm not sure this is a full-blown change from when Rocksteady was taking hits in an earlier trailer, or if this just happens to be unique to the Rat King himself. Now, there are a lot of details here in this scene here. In the background, we can see many sets of eyes watching the fight. Kind of creepy knowing there are even more rats hiding around right here where our heroes are. There's also mousers everywhere, both the little ones that can grab your hand, and there's also the very, very large ones. Now, I wonder if we're actually going to hopefully be able to fight one of the large ones. Let's hope so. Now, the last thing I want to mention is the trash foot ski I had mentioned earlier that the Rat King happens to jump on. You can also notice Krang's robot head, once again, is here sitting in the scene. Now, after taking a look at this, I've got a little bit of a speculation in terms of time frame or timeline when this game happens to take place, but that's something I actually have to save for another video. Continuing back inside Channel 6, we see a Technodrome transport module busted through the ground here in the background, and we also get our first look at team attacks, which are going to dub Let's Go Bowling. What we see here is April jumping in the air and starting her downward kick animation. As she lands near Leo, he holds his hands out, spins around, and throws a strike, with April gaining ninja power for each foot soldier she hits. Now also notice each of their meters are empty when doing this move, so it seems like this can be triggered whenever. This also brings up a bunch of questions here. 1. Does each person have to hit a button for this to trigger? I'm sure many times somebody will jump kick and they'll land near a teammate and they actually don't want this to happen. Number 2, how exactly is this triggered? Does the jump kick have to be into an ally only? Does this Let's Go Bowling move only trigger with a jump kick? And will a different team attack trigger if I decide to let the jump animation end without attacking? And also number 3, is this unique to April and or both her and Leo? Does this combo of the jump kick and the inputs plus your teammate equal Let's Go Bowling, or can it be done no matter who you are? Let me know in the comments below what you think of all this. Nothing much here except for a quick shot of a couple of Shredder statues here in the background of what could be a bridge going through Central Park. Now, how did this happen? Did the Turtles take a vacation and Shredder happens to be successful in taking over New York? We'll find out once the game is released. Now, moving back inside the news station, we're back at the computer desk scene with a couple of minor changes. We've got the 3 clocks that are added above the board to the right. There's a computer desk added to the foreground, and the window to the office in the background is no longer see-through. Now, moving on, just like his brothers, some of Donnie's attacks now have the color added to them. At some point, you see a big swing with his bow staff, and then there's that same flash that April has in some of her moves, but of course, it was in his purple color. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we were going to circle back to this. What exactly does this mean? Are the buttons you press a bit pressure sensitive, or if you do a long press, there's going to be a stronger version of that attack? Are there light and heavy attack buttons separately? Or does this flash happen to signify a critical hit, considering April happened to do different moves and there was flashes at different points of her combos? Now, let me know what you guys think. Now, continuing on, just as the scene transitions, April walks back up into the middle. She flashes her color and starts to do that same spin move she did earlier with Mikey. Now, up at the top, her ninja power meter drops to 0 and the bar empties out. It's very hard to catch without slowing the video down, but it's right there. Now, we know that this move now consumes your meter, but what about April's Ranbu attack from earlier in the trailer, which seems to be a little bit stronger, albeit not an area of effect attack. Her meter didn't seem like it was consumed prior to triggering, although we may have ended up missing a few frames as the scene cuts in as she's in the process of already doing it. Also, nobody seems to get anything more than one stock once the bar is full. Now, I'm sure we'll be able to go higher in the final build of the game, considering we're still in the alpha stages here, according to the disclaimer at the bottom. Will more stocks equal different or stronger attacks? Can't wait to find out. Now, next up, we just got a quick clip, of arrows being reflected back at the foot soldiers who shot them, which I don't believe was possible in other games. The scene also seems to be in the Central Park Zoo, based on previous scenes and what's going to be coming up in the next couple. Continuing to another part of the zoo, we're greeted with some banana throwing monkeys. It's hard to tell if the bananas were doing anything or causing any harm, as they seem to just land with no effect. We're greeted with a levitating foot soldier doing a ground pound. It's possible that the foot soldiers will be getting some additional abilities as well as just using weapons. Now, speaking of weapons, this same one pulls out some kind of chicken wire or a whip, not 100% sure here. Moving over to Raph, we can get a look at his front flip and reversal, 2-foot slide attack, again, as well as Donnie doing his baseball slide down at the bottom. I want to touch on something to the added hit effects we first started seeing in the second trailer, which we're seeing a little bit more of now. Pay attention to the foot soldier that April kicks over on the left-hand side. Now, there are yellowish effects on each of the hits, with the final hit creating a much larger, more profound red effect. The soldier then explodes after landing. Now let's double back 2 scenes ago when you see the same yellowish effect on the 2 foot soldiers that April knocks into the left side of the screen. But notice there is no red effect after she hits them. The foot soldiers hit the ground and then they stand up. Now, I'm going to say this, that since this game doesn't have any kind of HP bars or anything like that, like Streets of Rage does, the big red effect will help tell the player that the enemy has been defeated and that they'll be able to start moving towards their next target. Moving back to what seems to be the scene in Central Park on the bridge with the Shredder statues from earlier, our heroes and the Foot are greeted with a stampede of rhinos and warthogs. Now, we've got confirmation of a double jump mechanic shown here, where each of the heroes jump up in the air, and before descending, they flash in their respective colors and rise again. This does not seem to cost any meter. Also, check out Donnie starting to do his slow descent while swinging his bow staff between his legs, just the same as you were able to do in Turtles in Time. Next up, we've got our second team attack. Sort of. We've got both Leo and April doing what appears to be a move from R. Mika called the Flying Peach in the Street Fighter Alpha series, or the Shooting Peach known in Street Fighter V. Reason why I say sort of is because April actually does this attack a few scenes ago by herself, which actually we'll show you now. I didn't mention it earlier. Add this to the list of questions regarding team attacks. How do you do part of a team attack without a teammate? I'm going to take a guess and say that team attacks will function similarly how they do in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, where you can do them solo, and then a teammate would be able to trigger theirs at the same time within a certain, couple of frames, and it's going to make it a little bit stronger and combine the moves together. In that game, a prompt would show up to help let you know your teammates that there's an opportunity for a team attack. There wasn't any in this scene here, but it doesn't mean that they're not going to be adding it later on. In the background, we see Raph doing his forward slide with his size and then immediately popping up to his Ryu-style Dragon Punch, so it seems that these moves can be strung together. You can also see that the color was added to his attacks as well here, a little bit more of a comparison. He's got the white on the one side, and he's got the full red added to his attack here on the other. Lastly, we're shown here April reviving Mikey with a slice of pizza. However, this brings up a very big question. How does this mechanic work? Taking a look at the HUD up at the top, there's nothing to indicate that she has a pickup save to be used to revive him. It doesn't cost any ninja power, nor is any of her health sacrificed to help bring him back. So, does this mean this is a special move? Does this work by standing next to a downed ally, or do you actually have to hold down a button to bring back your downed ally like other games do? Or more interestingly, is this ability unique to April only? If that's the case, how would that influence team makeup, not only in the game's main campaign, but any other game mode that is possibly added to the game later on? That'll wrap it up for the overall breakdown for the Gamescom 2021 Shredder's Revenge trailer. Now, while this trailer was great with the addition of April, team attacks, and revives, it's actually brought up more questions than it's given answers to, but I don't care. I'm still very excited for this game, and I'm really looking forward to what's in store. Leave a comment down below with your speculations, and be on the lookout in the next week or so for my in-depth breakdown for April O'Neil. Until then, stay safe, and thanks for watching.